on the meme. I don't know how to. Ryan laughs at me every time I use that word, meme, because I never pronounce it the way the hipsters do, and I get laughed at. Anyways, it was this cartoon of somebody, and the caption on it said how everybody is going to look after we're done wearing masks. And it was a picture of Mickey Mouse, because it's pulling our ears, and that's kind of how I feel sometimes. I'm going to talk about anger this morning. We started this 2 weeks ago, this series on anger, and we interrupted it last week for the 4th of July and our Independence Day sermon. But I want to return to it for just one more week and talk about it. Anger is a strong emotion that God has given us that can be used in certain situations. It's got to be used correctly, though, and it's got to be acted upon properly, or it can be damaging. It can affect us. It can affect our relationships. It can affect our state of mind. It can even affect us physically if we've got unresolved anger and we don't do something with it. It can even affect us physically. So we have to be able to deal with it effectively. And the Bible gives us several different strategies to use to deal with anger. We're going to look at 5 of them this morning. 5 of them. Thomas Jefferson, in his Rules for Living, said that when you are angry, you should count to 10, and when you're very angry, you should count to 100. Good advice. Mark Twain, on the other hand, said if you're angry, count to 10, and if you're really angry, swear. I thought that was really funny, and y'all are not laughing at that. I thought it was funny, because I think that's the approach that most people take rather than Jefferson's more commonsensical approach. But we're going to take a look at 5 things that the Bible tells us about anger and 5 ways of dealing with it. So we're going to look at this as a topic today and look at several different scriptures, see what it has to tell us. The first one I want to look at is Proverbs 29:11. Proverbs 29:11. This is what Proverbs 29:11 says. A fool gives vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. Keeps himself under control. Anger is a powerful emotion that it is okay to feel. It's okay to have it unless we allow it to drive our actions and our words. We have to keep it under control. We have to keep it in check. And one of the strategies that we can use to do this is called dropping it, letting it go. Instead of allowing it to control us, instead of allowing it to guide our words, thoughts, and actions, and just saying whatever we're going to say, no matter who is offended by it, sometimes it's best just to take a step back and just drop it. There are times when we get angry and we just want to retaliate. We want that fight or flight instinct kicks in, and the fight comes out in us, and we want to, somebody says something a little bit off to us, and we want to retaliate, and we want to go right after them, and we want to get them, or we hear something that seems offensive to us, and maybe we don't understand the context of it. Maybe there's a whole conversation between something that we hear that we don't know anything about, but it sounds offensive to us, and we immediately want to start fighting. And it can be damaging. It can be damaging. The Bible's telling us here to stay under control, to keep our tempers under control. Sometimes we do that by dropping it. Now, there's a danger with this strategy, and the danger is that we repress it. Repressing anger and dropping anger are 2 very different things. We looked at this just a little bit 2 weeks ago. We don't want to repress our anger and ignore it and just pretend it's not there, because then it grows. It gets worse. When you're making a pot of chili, what's the best thing to do with it? You just let it simmer. And you let it simmer. And the more you let it simmer and the longer it cooks, the stronger it gets and the stronger the flavor gets. You do that with any soup. And that's how it works. Well, it's the same thing with anger, only the opposite. It gets worse. It just sits there and it simmers and it gets worse. And those feelings get stronger and stronger and stronger and darker. And it's not helpful, because we're pretending that we don't have that feeling, and we're repressing it, and we're not dealing with it. We need to recognize that we're angry, We need to recognize that we're angry and understand what we're angry about. But sometimes it's better to just let something go. Sometimes it's better to just say, I'm angry about what that person said, but I don't have to react to that. I'm angry about this situation, but I don't have to do anything about that. I can recognize my anger, I can count to 10, and I can just move on, and it's okay. That's what dropping it is all about. And this is particularly effective for situations over which we have no control. It makes me angry that we've all had to be in quarantine for 3.5 months, and we have to be careful where we have to go, and the sickness that's gone on with people, and the side effects. That makes me angry, but there's nothing I can do about that. I can't control that. I control my actions, but I can't control that. So I kind of have to just let that go. Same thing's true with the upcoming election. We're not going to get political today, but everybody's up in arms about it because it's just such a strong time for our country, such an emotional time for our country. And it seems like every day, if we pay too much attention to the news, we get angry about something or other. There's mad about something that's happened or something that somebody said, and it just can make us crazy. Sometimes it's better to take a breath, recognize that anger, and then just move on and do something else or think about something else. Sometimes it's better just to drop it, not repress it, not ignore it, but recognize it and just move on. Second thing, this comes from James chapter 1. James chapter 1 verses 19 and 20. It says this, "Take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, for a man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires." Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. We need to listen to people. We need to listen to people, and we need to hear what they're really saying. We need to hear what people are really saying. Sometimes when someone approaches us and they're really mad, and it seems like they're attacking us or coming after us, it has more to do with them and what's going on in their life than it does with us. Sometimes when we confront someone or when we are confronted with someone who's angry, it has more to do with some problem that they have. And it's not about us. And it's not about us taking things personally. It's about us recognizing that maybe this individual has a problem. Maybe they're snapping at us because their finances aren't going well because they've been out of work for 3.5 months. Maybe this person is frustrated because somebody they love is sick. Maybe this person is angry because there's a relationship issue. There's a myriad of problems that we all face. You can name them all day. Maybe when we're confronted with someone who's mad, it has more to do with them than us. And it's important for us to hear that. Listen to what's being said beyond the words. Listen to what's being said beyond what's on the surface. What's really going on with this individual? What's really driving this frustration that they're expressing? What is it? They're lashing out maybe an attempt to vent. Maybe they've got unresolved anger in their own hearts, and this is just the way it's coming out. They're frustrated with something, and you're just right there and in the right place at the right time, and you're the target for now. Maybe that frustration has more to do with their life situation. Once we understand what's making somebody angry, we can respond in a way that reduces their tension and our tension, and maybe we can do some good. Maybe we can do some good by helping somebody who's really having an issue, who's really having a problem, if we're willing to listen. If we're willing to listen and to understand. Here's the third thing from Proverbs 15:1. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Don't respond the way they are treating you. Instead, respond gently. Kind of sounds like what Jesus said about turning the other cheek. Kind of sounds like Jesus' words here, maybe a little bit. The temptation is to respond to anger with anger, but God tells us that a calm and gentle answer can turn away anger, and it can promote an intelligent discussion. Doesn't mean that we allow somebody to yell at us without responding. Doesn't mean that we allow ourselves to be treated like doormats. That's not what this scripture is saying. But sometimes we can respond to a person's anger with calmness and with a gentle answer. What's the old phrase, the old cliche, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar? It's true. It's true. Jesus tells us to do good to our enemies. That's one of his commands that he gives us, one of his harder commands to follow. Sometimes we need to do that when we're confronted with somebody who's angry. Respond to them with something gentle. Respond to them with something calm. I hear your anger. I can tell you're really angry. I can tell this is really bothering you. Tell me more about it. And use a calm tone of voice. You might be roiled up inside, you might be angry inside, but if you respond with a calm demeanor and a calm message, then maybe their demeanor will settle down a little bit as well, and you can work out whatever it is that's gone wrong. A harsh word stirs up anger. A harsh word stirs up anger. I see this in the emergency room all the time. When I was doing volunteer work, when I was actually in the hospital before all of this started, and I was spending 5-8 hours volunteering in the hospital, one of the things I did was go room to room in the emergency room, just talking to people and praying with them and trying to comfort them and just doing whatever I could. And invariably, people in the emergency room are not happy people. They're not. If you've been in the emergency room, it's maddening. It's one of the most frustrating places on the face of the earth. I'd rather drive through traffic on 285 than go out to the emergency room. It's crazy there. You go in and you have to wait an hour just to be seen, and then you have to wait an hour in the room for the doctor to come, and then you got to wait for the test results, and it's an all-day affair, and it's miserable. Trust me, we know. We've been there and done that way too much here lately. But if you go in, and you go in with a calm attitude, and you talk to people, and you say, you're right, it's been a long time, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that's what's taking so long. I'm sorry that you're having to wait like this. I know you're feeling bad and things are not going well for you today, and I hear that. Sometimes, or a lot of times, just having somebody understand your feelings goes a long way to helping you calm down. Sometimes just having somebody respond to you like that and validate what you're saying and listen to what you're saying can go a long way to help you take that anger out, or just remove that anger, and it calms people down. That gentle answer. Sometimes people just want to be heard. Sometimes people just want to say what they need to say and just to vent. And if you respond with a gentle answer, if you respond and let them know, hey, I hear you. I hear you. It goes a long way toward helping them cope with their own anger, and it'll save you a lot of headaches too. Fourth thing, Ephesians 4:26. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago. We talked about the first part of that. In your anger, do not sin. Anger itself is not a sin. Anger is a good emotion that is given to us by God. All of our emotions are neutral. They're neither good or bad. They're gifts that God has given us that help us understand what's going on inside of us. They're like data. They're like information. Emotions are that tell us what's happening to us inside. They're neither good, they're neither bad. It's how we use them, and anger is the same way. But the key to this verse that adds to what we talked about 2 weeks ago is, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Deal with it. Deal with it. Talk about it. Anger that's prolonged leads to bitterness and resentment. Anger needs to be expressed in a controlled manner, or it's going to turn into something worse. When we get angry with someone, the worst thing we can do is just walk away sometimes. Sometimes we just need to stand there and feel the anger and feel the discomfort and feel the confrontation and just solve it. We don't like confrontation. We don't like that. It's uncomfortable. It makes us feel bad. We get that bad feeling inside of us. We don't like it. We don't want that confrontation because we're afraid we're going to lose the argument. We're afraid we're going to lose control. We're afraid that somebody is going to get the upper hand in an argument. There's all kinds of reasons that we don't want confrontation. But sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes we just need to hash things out. Sometimes we just need to say what we need to say in love, calmly, respecting each other's dignity, but just saying what we need to say, speaking the truth, and speaking it in love. Because sometimes, if we just let that go, if we don't handle this problem before the sun goes down, it's going to be worse when we get up in the morning. It's still going to be there. Those feelings are still going to be around, and we're just not going to have solved anything, and we're going to feel bad. We need to deal with it. We need to handle it before the sun goes down. Take care of it. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes talking about our anger, sometimes talking about our conflict between us and another person is difficult, but sometimes it's necessary. We may not even come to an agreement with somebody that we're in conflict with. We may not. But at least we will have talked about it, and at least we can end the conversation by saying, we may not agree about this, but I still care about you and I still love you. And we can finish that way. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. Finally, the fifth one. Fifth one is Proverbs 22:24. Proverbs 22:24. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn his ways and get yourself ensnared. I will amend this and say, do not make friends with anyone who is hot-tempered, because it's not just men who have tempers. Okay? We all do. We all do. The writer of Proverbs here, he's using the word man in the term mankind, talking about all of us. Okay, he's not being specific to one gender. There are some people who make anger a lifestyle. There are. They seem to use anger to get what they want. They can't control their anger. They won't control their anger, is more to the point. Their dealings with others are characterized by fits of rage or angry tongue lashings. They're so full of bitterness, so full of resentment, so full of just negativity that you can't do anything with them. And sometimes it's best to just not associate with them, because that anger and that bitterness is going to rub off on us. Sometimes we have to set a boundary with people. This isn't the first response to anger. Okay? This strategy right here is not the first response when we're dealing with an angry person, just to cut them off. Okay, we need to go through all of those other steps first, listening and hearing and keeping ourselves under control and trying to turn away their anger with a gentle answer. But if none of that works, if none of that happens, then sometimes we need to cut that relationship off for our own sake, for our own peace of mind. And the Bible tells us that this is an acceptable strategy. We've got to be careful when we use it and how we use it, because it can be a crutch and it can be used inappropriately but sometimes it's necessary. These are people who are always looking for a crisis. They're defensive. They're always looking to just be mad. And sometimes we just need to stay away from them. Or set a boundary, at least. Maybe this isn't a person that you can actually cut out of your life completely. Maybe it's your boss, or maybe it's an uncle or whatever. But at least you can minimize your contact with that person as much as possible. Don't make friends with them, because you don't want that to rub off on you. You don't want that to destroy your peace of mind. You don't want that to become who you are. Cut that off. When we use anger properly, it can improve our lives. It can. When we recognize anger as a tool in our lives, it can make life better, because it can help improve our relationships if we start using it properly, and if we recognize it. It can improve our satisfaction in life, because we can recognize that it's there, accept it, and deal with it. It can make life better, and that's why God gave it to us. It's an important emotion that we need to use and that we need to recognize and take advantage of, if we do it the right way. If we do it the right way. So I'd encourage you not to avoid anger, not to do everything you can not to be angry, but to accept it as a normal part of life, to recognize that it's going to be there at times, and then to find ways to use it constructively to help us, or to make life better, or to express it in a way that makes someone else's life better. It's important. It's important. I'm going to call Ed and Tamara up this morning, and we're going to go through our invitation time. Tamara's doing a great job by herself today.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I get to hold her arm that way.
You get let's be standing as we go into our invitation time. Let's take this challenge to use anger, to be angry, to recognize it, but to use it in a way that's positive. Let's sing through our invitation this morning.